Man, one thing I wish about our sport track is that if you look at other sports like the NBA, Major League Baseball, and NFL, there's so much debating and content and conversation around draft, free agency, trades, contracts, like having a good contract versus a bad contract. There's so much content around stuff that isn't even the game that they're playing that everyone wants to talk about the trade deadline and the draft and this free agency and the GM. Everyone's talking about the GMs and the owners, but no one is talking about that in the sport of track and field. Do you think that the fact that we don't have that is a reason that kind of holds back our popularity? Because people like debating super teams and this, that, and the other thing.
Well, I think there are a few things to unpack in that question. Number one, we used to have sponsored teams, and so and they would technically recruit to get athletes to them. Back in the 80s and 90s, we had obviously Santa Monica Track Club, Athletics West, uh, Puma Energizer, Foot Locker. We had those teams, and it was kind of that situation. But here's what's really going on with that, which is a great question. We have no ownership of professionalism. You just say you're a high school kid or a college kid or whatever, and you say, "Well, I'm turning pro." Well, there is no real mechanism for turning pro other than saying, "I'll take money." So the leagues own all the information. They have their own television networks, radio networks, XM radio networks. Um, they promote everything that happens. And we don't do that. We don't even have in the NFL. You have to report to the NFL or these leagues if you're in or out. We don't do that. We don't. There, I proposed 15 years ago that if you want to become a professional athlete, let's do it through the federations, or go to the next level. There's a code of ethics and something you sign to say I am now a professional athlete and I'm denouncing my amateurism or whatever you want to call it, college eligibility, and I am able to do it. Now all of a sudden you're in a centralized place. Then there's a real press conference. There's talk about it. You know that technically you draft yourself into this league. You can have, like I said, a code of ethics. So therefore, we can fight things and understand a lot of issues. And then we'll start talking about, well, who's the new signees this year? Who's the new person this year? And if we started getting sponsored teams back again, instead of just having all these training groups and accepting that, then all of a sudden, after you announce that, now it's like, well, what team is he going to go to? So we could create that. They created that. The draft was not a big deal. It was a one-day show in the 80s, and now it's a 3-day television extravaganza. The combine. These are all television shows because they focused on television. They focused on all this. They have their own networks to present those things, but we don't own any of that. And so, if you can't have those things unless you have a mechanism that's put in place to make sure that you can present it. If we just simply did that, then all of a sudden the now you're getting teams to say, well, this person turned professional. So now the teams are going out saying, I want to get you to join my team. So maybe like a lot of the kids on our team are with Nike Red Bull. Well, now all of a sudden Nike Red Bull has an incentive to go out and say, we're going to pay you this to run for our team because we want the best team possible. But right now they don't have that. See, our sport lives by the individual concept. And so at the corporate level, it's best to divide and conquer. At the federation level, it's best to divide and conquer so that they have no power. Well, the power comes in these other leagues because they have a union, because everyone's together. So really, if they started with that area and then really focus energy on getting sponsored teams back, we don't need teams in cities. That's just not going to work. But if you had sponsored teams all around the country, like we have other sports and around the world, rather, then those teams will be the ones that want to go out and find the best athletes. And if we have a centralized mechanism for turning professional, then that's another area where we know who is and what's going on. And then they would be distributed to certain leagues. Like you're in the A League and that's all these sponsors. You're in the B League and that's all these kind of sponsors. So we just have no everything is just open. I'm turning pro tomorrow. And so then I sign an agent and then I go get a shoe contract. That's not professional. The sport has no control of anything, not television message, not radio, not XM, nothing. And you can't expect to have that if you don't have any cohesive message and a situation where these athletes have somewhere specific to do and to go to. Because right now, the athletes at the University of Houston, H-Town Speed City, I'm the one that really determines who's going to go to the next level. They're good enough, they go. If not, they're like, I still want to run. I'm like, dude, it's a wrap. Get a job because you're not going to make it. And that's not a mean thing. It's just like you're not there. So you came here to go to college. You had a great career. Use that to move on to the next level. And we have to be more honest about that.